All right, so hi everybody. My name is Nick Metzler. I am a professional game designer. So I started my career, I guess you could say, back at the Young Inventors Challenge in 2010 and 2011. I was 16 years old when I got my first game published, 16 or 17, one of the two. And it was a game called Squashed. It was this three-dimensional cube game where the goal of the game was to squash everybody else on the cube, and you could do that in two ways. The first way was to move directly on top of another piece. So like 1, 2, 3, and squash somebody into the cube, just like that, really fun. Or the second way is you could end your turn at any of the four spaces surrounding the king piece to allow you to flip the whole cube and squash anybody caught underneath. So a lot of people really loved it because you got to take this thing and just slam it on the table. It was a lot of fun with full-on physicality. So how did I come up with something like this, right? It's this 3D object, and the prototype didn't exactly look like that. I didn't have a lot of plastics at my disposal. All I had was my creativity. And when I looked around at the Young Inventors Challenge the year prior, I noticed that everybody was just on the ground, right? Everybody's board games were flat. So I said, how can I stand out and be a little bit different? And I decided to make mine three-dimensional. Another thing that I did is I thought about, what do I find fun in life? What do I find fun in games? And I realized that physicality in games wasn't really present. You know, you press the thing in the middle of trouble and it bops the die around and super fun. Why isn't there more of that stuff in games? So I included that part into Squashed. And then it was also with magnets. I was trying to figure out a way to have pieces moving up the side of an object. And I couldn't figure out a good way to do that until I thought of magnets. And so I had this, I ended up ordering some steel online, cold pressed steel, and I had my manager, my janitor at the local high school weld it together into a cube for me to make the prototype. And it was an absolute dream, making it, bringing this creation to life. It was so much fun, and I was so lucky to have it be published into the market, and eventually became a professional game designer. So it was just an incredible journey, and I want to talk a little bit about how I started and how I transitioned more over to the professional gaming life. When I was young, I really loved the 8-bit Mario, and I don't know, a lot of people might remember the 8-bit Mario because you moved around the screen and you jumped and you tried to get the mushrooms, and it's still kind of the same, right? But I loved it. I wanted to figure out ways to make it more of what I wanted as well. I wanted to bring out my own creativity, and so I started making puppet video games. That was a blast. I did all sorts of stuff, and then I fell in love with Pokemon as well. I loved Pokemon, and I had all this creativity, right? I wanted to know how I could make Pokemon my own, and so I created something called Kalamon. So I've got a picture of that right now, which I'll share. So these are some of my Kalamon cards. As you can see, I made a really large stack of them. But this one I started in 4th grade, and this is called Explodey. He was a little bomb, and it exploded. And I moved into a lot of other different monsters and things like that too. So I was extremely creative as a kid. But how did I go from creativity to somewhere professional? Well, you just keep improving at it, right? You keep refining your craft. You keep getting a little bit better. You keep trying new things and innovating on top of the things that you already tried. And I'm happy to say that games really are my passion. I get to work in my passion. But you might be wondering, how can I do that in my own life? What if you can't find your passion? You might be wondering what your passion really is. And you hear that phrase all the time, that you have to find your passion, right? But I want to tell you a little secret. I want to let you in on the secret. Well, you don't find your passion. Nobody finds their passion. That's not how passion works. And if you take something away from this talk, I want you to take away that you don't find your passion, you develop your passion. And so let me talk a little bit about passion. So first, passion starts as curiosity. And I'll walk you through kind of the things that I've talked about already with my journey into how this curiosity developed into a passion. First, when you're curious about something, you want to learn as much as you can about the thing, right? You learn so much about it. You learn every little piece. You learn how high Mario jumps, or you learn every single Pokemon in the series, right? After you're done with that curiosity, that insatiable drive to learn and just to be excited about something, then you can start tinkering with it. And tinkering is so much fun. It's such a fun process. And it's where the invention comes from, right? It's where you take something that you already saw, you tinker with it to make it a little bit more of what your vision is, what your idea is, and you bring it into something completely new, that invention. So if we're talking about like the chicken poo bingo, she took something that was already made, bingo, for example, and she also took things that was around her in her daily life, maybe chickens in a chicken coop, and she combined them together. She tinkered with them and combined them. That's the creativity spark, right? Once you've got tinkering down, then it develops into a framework. What's a framework? It's a way of putting out rules and sets of rules for designing or making different things. So for me, an example of my framework would be, well, I looked around the entire fair and I saw that everything was flat. How do I make something that's three-dimensional, right? I start thinking in a different way than everybody else is thinking, and I start building a framework around how I want my creation to be. And these are the same skills that I use in my everyday life at Spin Master. And finally, once you've got frameworks down, then passion really comes out. And what is passion? To me, passion is it's a way of thinking about your world and thinking about your life. You start seeing the world in a different way, in a different light, and you start filtering the information that you have in your daily life through that lens. And to me, that's where passion really happens. A lot of people say that you can find your passion, but I disagree with that. I think you have to develop your passion because it's a way of life. It's a way of being. It involves all of your emotions, and that's truly what passion is. The beauty of developing your passion is you don't have to be anxious about finding it. And you don't need to worry that anybody else is better than you either, because it's completely your own journey. And so if I could leave you with anything on that, I'll leave you with that. It's knowing that each of you has a special gift to give to the world, and you and only you alone can discover what that gift is. So I can't wait to see how you all change the world. I hope you develop your passion, and you never know what could come of it.
Sweet. Thank you, Nick.
Wow.
I have to say, I just ordered Squashed on Amazon. It'll be here early next week, so I'm excited to actually play that game. Yep, I will have that soon.
There it is.
Appreciate you being on the call today.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone.
What was your other game that you submitted to
the so the year before Squashed, I came in with a game called That's Cheating. And if you've ever played the card game BS, where you lay cards face down and you're trying to get rid of all your cards first, it's a little bit like a board game version of that. You played your moves face down and you can move around this concentric ring. But if your move was too good to be true, somebody else could call you out and say, that's cheating, and force you to flip over that card to see if you actually have the right card or not.
I like that. That's awesome. Cool. Does anyone else have any other questions for Nick, or I could say too?
I just want to thank him. Thank you, Nick, for sharing this, for your passion. I think that's really inspiring. I think you're really inspired. And I hope that you continue to inspire people about passion. You're really, really, I think that you said that passion develops. It's really, really true. And well, thank you for giving away those little secrets. And I'm sure that they're going to be really helpful for a lot of young innovators. And I do wish a lot of success in your career. And I'll be also looking forward to your games. And life is about that, about passion and about fun. So thanks for sharing and for being so creative.
Absolutely. And one little thing about that secret: don't keep it a secret. Share it with everybody.
Right. That's the most important thing. Yeah.
I guess to follow on the story. Oh, I was gonna say, the follow on the chicken poo bingo story, I did figure out where that passion came from. And at their campground, they play real life chicken poo bingo with real chickens.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a real thing in Florida. I don't know if it's anywhere else too, but I was like, of course it would be. And so that's what inspired her game. I had to ask, I'm like, where did this idea come from? And they play it. I've also heard that there's cow poo bingo as well. Probably a much bigger version, but those are actual real things that are out there.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in and say I loved your talk as well. It was really inspiring. It was really great. What are you working on at the moment? Have you got anything in the pipeline that you can talk about? Have you got a new game?
Yeah, I've got lots of new games. I can't talk about most of them because, they're NDAs and everything. But
Yeah.
some of my most recent games, there's one called Hot Words that's out there. So much fun. It's a little bit like Taboo, where you draw a card and you have to describe the words on the card. However, there's some hot words that you can't say, and they give you rules for things. Like, for example, you can't say the word this, or the more difficult ones, you can't say words beginning with the letter C. So there's a lot of really cool, fun stuff that happens there. But I'm working on lots of games. I've got about 35 in the market at this point. I'll have another 5 or so next year.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Cool.
going to be a really fun job.
It's very fun. It's the greatest job in the world.
I saw your video with Soggy Doggy as well. I think you were, maybe it was like a news report on that one. Did you work on that game as well?
So I didn't work on that one, but I helped promote it.
Okay.
It's Soggy Doggy, for those of you who don't know. Super fun game. It's a really cute, fluffy dog that shakes, and it's in a shower, and so it sprays water everywhere. Great for 5-year-olds.
That's awesome. There's a lot of games like that out there right now too, with like the water and things happening. So I think that's awesome. Anything else for Nick? I know we have just a few minutes before we got to switch over. Anyone have any questions? I see Dominic and Joey are already on. Do you guys have any questions for Nick? These are 2 of our winners that are coming up. You don't have to if you don't have any, but I thought I would throw it out.
That's okay if you guys don't.
I actually have a question. You said that you participated in this when you were 16 in the competition.
Yep.
Did you then go on and do university studies? I mean, what did you study to then go into games?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. During the competition, I met an incredible person named Mike Hurdle. And when I met him, he was talking about how to sell ideas. And I really got inspired by how to sell ideas. And Mike Hurdle was a previous person for Hasbro. He was a global acquisitions and inventor relations representative. So he was an incredible person to meet. But he was talking about entrepreneurship and ideas. And so I went in with the mindset that, you know what, I want to learn how to sell ideas, but in a way to make the world more fun. So I went to USC, where I studied business administration with an emphasis in entrepreneurship and did a minor in psychology. And while I was there, I worked on Survivor as a challenge designer. I started an entrepreneurship fraternity, eventually became president of that, and then I made a bunch of other games designed to test emotional intelligence. And that's how we did Rush for our entrepreneurship fraternity. They played games.
Awesome. I love that. That's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah. Thanks.
Cool. So were you hired by Spin Master straight from college?
Yeah. So in junior year, I was looking for a job. I took the semester off because I was trying to get back on Survivor. But a bunch of weird circumstances happened where they were taking less and less people. And then there was a big issue that occurred with the people that they were hiring. It's a long story. I'm not going to go into it. But I was without a job in my junior year, so I was looking around trying to figure out what I should do. And Spin Master happened to be 2 or 3 stops away from the train station, so I cold called them and got through to their games team, and they ended up hiring me off of that cold call. And so I worked with them as an intern for about a year, and then I went directly into the office after as a full time. We went through a reorg 2 years ago, and then I moved out to New York, where I am now, and I'm still with Spin Master.
Nice. All right.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing all of that experience and your story and those secrets that will no longer be kept secret.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks.